Hello everybody and welcome back to the Best Ride in Planet Coaster Tournament. Last episode we saw Elixir Machine beat Insanity, the Screamator slap Venetian Carousel, Genie spank Skywatcher, and Charoplane roundhouse kicked 360 power. Today's episode we have Sunflare vs Coriolis, Zozo vs Overpower, Ironclaw vs Sky Ace, and the Aeronauts vs Bumpin Derby. Let's get right into it and look at the stats of match 1. This match should be an interesting one. Sunflare has a higher excitement over Coriolis by almost 1. However, it also has a higher fear of almost 2 and a higher nausea by over 2. Will Sunflare's higher excitement give it the win, or will its higher fear and nausea be enough for more guests to choose Coriolis? Let's find out. Match 27, Sunflare versus Coriolis. Here we go. Round 1 begins now. Who's gonna take it? First group goes into Coriolis. Here comes everybody else. Still don't know why that happens, but it does. It's looking pretty even at the start. Sunflare has a lead. Bouncing back to Coriolis. I don't know. It feels like Coriolis has a slight advantage, but it's still really close. And now, I don't know. It's bouncing back and forth. I still feel like Coriolis has more. Oh, definitely. Coriolis has more now. I wonder if I'm going to have to ride the rides. Test the rides. Run the rides. There we go. One of those verbs I knew would eventually make it. The stats, though, this is amazing. Coriolis has red for excitement. That is insane. It's orange fear as opposed to green fear. The more we do these, the colors, I'm starting to think we shouldn't pay attention to the colors at all. It's still kind of close, but it's looking like Coriolis is going to pull the win here. 444 guests in the park. It's starting to slow down. And the more it slows down, the less likely Sunflare is to win this. Just make sure no one's complaining about anything in the guest thoughts. Nope. Other than food, toilets, drinks, and more rides, everything else is good. 468 guests in the park. 471. What's great about these rides is people ride both of them. No one's turning away and leaving the park. Yeah, I think I could probably call it here. We might hit 500 if I just sit here for another 10 minutes. But even if we do, there's way more than 20 people here. Let's do an old-fashioned count. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 20. Okay, so there's like 20-ish guests around here. Yeah, that wouldn't be enough. And with that, Coriolis wins round 1. Sunflare vs Coriolis round 2 starts now as I press all the wrong buttons. First group goes for Coriolis again. Let's see what the mob does. It was close, so there is a chance Sunflare can bounce back here. And it looks like it tried doing that at the start. Wow. It might be bouncing back. And then I say that. It's so strange. I do not understand their process of thinking. Because, you know... Alright, let's just pause real quick. Right here, it looks like a tie game. Maybe Sunflare has a slight lead. Even all the way back to here. And then it just changes. Now it's looking like Coriolis has it. It seems like always at the start of these matches, it's very close. It's like even, and then as more guests show up, a favorable one appears, and that's Coriolis. Although as I say that, of course, it's always what happens. I start saying something, and then the opposite happens. Where, okay, it's looking a lot more even. No, okay, Coriolis still has a lead here. It's not looking as even as I'm hinting it to be. 430 guests in the park. And I think we're going to have our winner here. Moving on to the semifinals? Or is that not yet? I don't know. I can't see. I don't have the thing pulled up. Moving on in the tournament. Our first winner of this branch of the bracket. 460 guests in the park. Numbers are slowly coming in. Yeah, it's looking very similar to the previous round. Coriolis. Who knew? 49%. and a lot less for Sunflare. Everything's still free. The rides are the same. Yep, just making sure. 483 guests to the park. I'm calling it here. Coriolis wins round 2 and moves on in the tournament. Next up, we have Zozo vs. Overpower. First off, need to apologize. In the last video the Zozo was in, I had the wrong stats for the graphic. They were much lower, and in this one they are corrected, so don't worry about it. Overpower has a 0.70 higher excitement compared to the Zozo, but it also has a much higher fear and nausea. As we're finding out more and more with these matches, having green fear isn't always a good thing. It really seems like the lower that stat is, the better off the ride is, as long as it has good excitement. Let's see what happens and get into round 1. Match 28, Zozo versus Overpower. Here we go. This one, we don't have to worry about hitting 500. We're gonna hit that no problem. Let round 1 begin. First group heads for the Zozo. Where's everyone else gonna go? I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be as one-sided as you guys think it is. Then again, I've been wrong before. Wow. Wow. Oh, man. You know, I thought Overpower was gonna put up more of a fight. Yikes. They're not that far off, I don't think. I haven't looked at the stats yet. Although, technically I just did, but I haven't yet. No, they're pretty close. Overpower has more excitement, but a lot more fear. That's what sinks. I think that's what does it. Green fear is bad. You want as low as possible when it comes to fear and flat rides. Maybe coasters are a different story, but from what we found out, flat rides with fear, you want it as low as possible. Ignore the color. Because this is what happens. Or maybe, you know, this is just what happens when you go up against the Zozo. The frickin' Zozo. This thing is insane. It's great value. Oh, yeah, it is. Look at these guest thought numbers. 19% are thinking about Overpower. This is ridiculous. Over half the park is thinking about Zozo. Although, now that I say that... Wait a second. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, good. No one's complaining about the queue lines, but the last 4 people got in the Overpower's queue, which I thought was strange. We are almost done here. Just the last few guests are showing up. And they all went into the Zozo. So, it's safe to say Zozo wins round 1 with double the queue line Overpower has. Round 2, Zozo versus Overpower. Let's just get this over with. Judging by the performance in the first round, Zozo's gonna win this one pretty easily. Let's see what happens here. The first 30 people get into Zozo before the first family goes into Overpower. And look at just the giant pile of people sitting here waiting. The queue line hasn't had a break yet. 300 guests in the park, and now there's breaks in the queue line. I think Zozo's going to win by even more this round. That is insane. I think the Rocktopus did better against the Zozo than Overpower is doing right now. I can't really remember that far back. I've done a lot of these rounds. Also, look. The queue entrance keeps on disappearing. Fix your game, Frontier. Geez, how do you let that bug exist? Just kidding. It's not that big of a deal. I'm looking for me real quick. If I had a guess, I'd say I was in this queue line, although I don't appear to be in this park. No, I don't see me. Why don't I come anymore to these parks? It makes me sad. I'm nowhere to be found. I'm like, nah. Nah. I already went. It's not a great park. There's only 2 rides. And plus you can never ride any of them. 2 more guests. Oh, need to enter the park. I thought that was the last group. It is not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Oh, man. Zozo annihilates Overpower. And with that win, Zozo moves on in the tournament. Next up, we have Iron Claw versus Sky Ace. Looking at these stats, I feel like this is going to be one of the closest matches of this tournament. Iron Claw has only a .12 more excitement over Sky Ace and .14 less fear. The biggest difference between these rides is nausea, where Sky Ace has .81 less than Iron Claw. Let's see which of these rides will be victorious and get right into the match. Match 29, Iron Claw versus Sky Ace. Round 1 begins now. First group heads to Iron Claw. This is probably going to be one of the closest ones of the day and maybe the tournament. Both of these rides have very close stats. And it should be interesting to see which one pulls away with the win here. I may have to run the rides on this one. I could see that being a definite possibility, as right now, it looks pretty much dead even. Who's gonna take it? 3.5 excitement for Iron Claw, 3.38 for Sky Ace. However, the fear for Iron Claw is lower, but the nausea is much higher than Sky Ace. And look at these numbers, or just numbers, yeah, there's no numbers. Look at the lines. They're practically even. Although it's looking like Sky Ace is taking a lead now with how many guests are entering the queue line. It's still going to be pretty close, though. Iron Claw is bouncing back now. We're at 436 guests in the park. It's back and forth right now. Yeah, I don't think we're going to have a choice here other than to run the rides. Alright, I'm calling it there. 486 guests. Park is closed. Let's add the exits to the ride so the guests can't leave, so we can keep this 486 number down here. We need the numbers for the rides. So, Iron Claw has 8 guests that rode the ride while we were setting the queue lines to 0. And Sky Ace has 2. Okay, gonna run the rides, and then we'll see which one of these wins round 1. It's looking like Sky Ace. The results are in, and Iron Claw had 248 total guests, while Sky Ace also had 248 total guests. Subtract the 8 initial riders that were on Iron Claw when we were setting the queue line to 0, and you get 240, while Sky Ace only had 2, so you subtract that, 246. 240 plus 246 equals the 486 total guests in the park, which means Sky Ace wins by 6 guests, which is a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Here we go, round 2, Iron Claw versus Sky Ace. I'm pretty sure this is still anyone's game. Iron Claw could easily come back and win this round and force a round 3. Let's find out. Park is open. Here comes everybody. Right off the bat, it looks like Iron Claw is going to take a lead, a major lead. Wow. Look at that. Iron Claw wants to win it. It's not done yet. If it's going to go down, it's going to go down with a fight. Sky Ace responds, though. Gets a decent chunk of guests in that queue line, but I don't know. I feel like Iron Claw took a decisive lead right at the start here. And, it might be able to hold on. 480 is the number we're looking for to call it around, because it's about where we were in the first round. So once we get around that number, we can tell who's going to win it. It is still super close. Iron Claw does have a lead, but that lead is disappearing pretty quickly. 427 guests in the park. Oh, it's neck and neck again, which means I'm gonna have to run the rides. But, you know, I did kind of see this one coming. Like I said, this was gonna be the closest one of the episode, and maybe even the tournament. Looking at these numbers, they're super close. And the results are showing that. Iron Claw does have a lead here, though. 461 guests in the park. As I say that, a bunch more people get in the queue line for Sky Ace. It's going to be another close one. Look at this. Look at this is ridiculous. 474 guests in the park. We're just waiting for a few more families before we close it. Ooh, a big group. Big group gets into Iron Claw queue line. That might have just pushed it over the edge to win it. Come on, one more family. One more family. Let's go. There they are. And they're going for Sky Ace. All right, we're going to close the park. And we're going to run the rides again. Numbers are the same as the start. Let's just put the exits in. And here we go. The results are in, and Iron Claw had 257 total riders, minus the 8, ends up being 249, while Sky Ace had 236, minus the 2, ends up being 234. 249 plus 234 is 483, and Iron Claw wins round 2 and forces a round 3. Round 3, Iron Claw versus Sky Ace. Whoever wins this round moves on in the tournament. Here we go. First group goes into Iron Claw. Everyone else splits it about even. This is going to be the closest round yet. The number to beat is 6. 6 guess difference. Although it's looking like... Oh, wow. Iron Claw takes a huge lead there. But, Sky Ace is fighting back. I feel like... Do children ride both these rides? Or just Sky Ace? No, children will ride both these rides. I feel like Sky Ace is more child-friendly, though. I say that as I see more... No, that's not true. Because look at the stats. The fear is higher than Iron Claw. It does feel like a more kid-friendly ride, probably because the whole plane and it's like cutesy looking. It looks more like a kid ride than Iron Claw does. But stats-wise, Iron Claw is more of a kid's ride. Well, see, I say that and then, you know, but nausea. It's lower fear but higher nausea. Higher fear but lower nausea. I have no idea. Let's ask the park guests. Excuse me, sir and or madam. Which ride do you think kids would prefer? The one you are on or the one you aren't on? Pointless. Absolutely pointless. Stupid guests. Also, look at the queue lines. Iron Claw has a much higher lead this time around compared to Sky. Wow. We don't need to test the rides. We know Iron Claw is going to win this with that much of a lead. And few more families left coming into the park. It doesn't look like Sky Ace is going to win this. Wow. You know, I probably would have said Sky Ace over Iron Claw. If I had to put money on it, my money would have been on Sky Ace before this started. Like, I knew Iron Claw was good and it was going to be close, but I had a feeling Sky Ace was going to have a lead. Nope. Iron Claw with the win. Although, I'm calling it now. I'm calling it. It's over. We're at 481 guests. Another family goes into Iron Claw. There's no way. If 20 guests show up to this park and get in the queue line for Sky Ace, Iron Claw is still going to win it. Even though more and more just keep on going into the queue line anyway. Iron Claw wins it 2-1, moves on in the tournament. And finally, our last match of the day, the Aeronauts versus Bumpin Derby. Looking at these stats, I feel on paper, Bumpin Derby has the advantage. It has a higher excitement and lower fear than the Aeronauts. Somehow, and I have no idea how, it does have a higher nausea rating. To me, the Aeronauts still has a lower rating than I think what it deserves, but let's see which of these rides has the upper hand by getting into the match. Match 30, the Aeronauts versus Bumpin Derby. My bad, I accidentally put Bumpin Derby over here, Aeronauts over there. It doesn't really matter, it's the same thing, it's just, you know, the writing and the way the bracket is, it's flipped. Anyway, this is a interesting scenario again, in case you missed the first time we had Bumpin Derby. With the way we set it up, so guests can't get on the rides, Bumpin Derby ignores that, and guests will get on the rides anyway. So, these rides are going to be going the entire time. I just tested it to see about how many guests enter the park, and we're at around 375, 400, so we're going to go with the lower number just to make sure we hit that number. And the rides are going to be running the whole time. Guests are going to be riding them the whole time. And also, queue time shouldn't matter. I checked, and the longest queue time was like 6 minutes, and the guests don't think that's too long. So, we will continue to monitor it just in case. And, yeah, let round 1 begin! First group gets into the queue line for the Aeronauts. Right now, the times are... they don't exist. After a few seconds of the guests getting into the queue lines, they will jump up to something, but it'll probably be super low and it won't matter. Right away, Aeronauts taking a lead. However, Bumpin' Derby has more guests in it than I would like. I hate having to do the rounds this way because it's different. And it also takes longer because I have to sit here and wait for the guests to ride all the ride. But, 3 minutes for the Aeronauts, that's not bad. 0 for Bumpin' Derby, that's the best we can get. It's looking pretty even. We're at 300 guests. Right off the bat. 47 have ridden the Aeronauts, while 31 have ridden Bumpin' Derby. You know, I'm going to stop looking at that right away. We're going to wait till the end to see it. We're at 348 guests. We better hit that 375 number, or I'll scream. Like I said, I aimed for the lower end of that, so I know we would hit it. And it's looking like we're struggling to hit it. Now we'll get it. I believe. It's looking like an Aeronauts victory. These queue lines are really close, but remember, more people have ridden the Aeronauts because it holds more people. But you can never be so sure. The last group... oh, that's not the last group. One more group can enter the park. And there you have it. 376 is the number. Alright, the remaining guests are getting on the ride for the Aeronauts. And since we are at 376, the number you want to beat is 188, because that's half of 376. So if you have 189, guess what? You win. And I really hope it's not a tie, because I guess we'll have to open the park again as a tiebreaker. We've never had to worry about that, so we'll worry about that if that's the case. The Aeronauts had 220 guests, which means 376 minus 220. Bumpin' Derby should have 156 by the time it's done. It's at 149 plus 7, 156. There you have it. The Aeronauts takes round 1. Round 2, the Aeronauts versus Bumpin' Derby. Here we go. Let me just make sure I did everything right. Like I said, it's a weird round, so I gotta make sure everything's good. Okay, yeah, everything is good. Right away, it's looking like more guests, a lot more guests are getting the queue line for Bumpin' Derby. Wow. I feel like the Aeronauts won by a pretty good lead last time, and now it's evening out. Let's just make sure queue lines are good. No one's complaining. 2 minutes, okay, yeah, that should be good. Bumpin' Derby's probably gonna be up 0 again. Let's just make sure, yep, everything's good there. We should probably look when the remaining guests enter the park. Or we could just watch them, really. If they turn away from the queue line, then you know it's a problem. Kids, adults, everyone should ride any of these rides, so. That guy has a pirate hat. Good for him. Good for him for showing up to a park wearing a pirate hat. No fear. 357. Why'd you turn away? I think they just don't want to ride any of these rides, yeah. Yeah, they don't want to do anything in the park, just to make sure. No one's complaining about the queue times. Good. The queue time shouldn't be that bad at all. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, yeah, it's fine. It's hard to tell who's going to win this. One more family will enter the park. Just kidding. 2 more families should enter the park, or now 1. There we go. 377 is the number. The last 2 groups get in the queue line for Aeronauts. And now we just sit and wait to see how many guests Aeronauts will have. The last guests are getting off the Aeronauts. Again, the number you're going to want is 189. The Aeronauts has 193. The Aeronauts just barely beats out Bumpin' Derby this round. Wow. By an exact number of, I don't want to divide, I want to minus. Also known as subtracting. Bumpin' Derby, well, I can tell you right now, 184 when it starts up. Told you, 184 lifetime guests for Bumpin' Derby, 193 for the Aeronauts. The Aeronauts wins round 2 and moves on in the tournament. Joining the Aeronauts in the winners category, we also have Coriolis, Zozo, and Ironclaw. Next episode should be the best one yet, where we'll see Tristorm versus Blackout, Sundial versus Psychola, Elixir Machine versus the Screaminator, and Genie versus Charoplane. Thank you all for watching. Leave a like, share the video if you enjoyed, that helped it a lot. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you next time.